Hi, everyone, and thank
Okay.
you for joining today's virtual panel, Friends in SMB Cybersecurity. We will be discussing a variety of topics on how SMBs can protect their organizations from cyber threats and the digital unknown. Our panelists today are Noam from Ignition, Bobbie from Benekiva, Theresa from CyberSecure Risk Management, and Akshay from Malwarebytes. I'll hand it over to each of the panelists to introduce themselves in greater detail. Let's start with Noam.
Hi there. Thank you, Abby. My name is Noam Birnbaum. I'm the founder and the CEO of Ignition. We are a managed services and managed security services provider. We're based in San Francisco, but we work with companies all over the country and specializing in the SMB and mid-market.
Very good. Theresa?
I'm Theresa Mattox, and my company is CyberSecure Risk Management, and my focus is on risk mitigation, working with technologies, software, and companies to incorporate various ways to prevent cyber attacks from happening. And so my focus is on the front end versus the back end. So that's me.
Very good. Akshay?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Akshay Bhargava. I'm the Chief Product Officer at a company called Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes, we provide endpoint security solutions, both for consumers and corporations. And excited and looking forward to this panel and your questions.
Okay, and Bobbie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bobbie Shrivastav. I'm co-founder and chief product officer at Benekiva. What we are is a software as a solution organization for insurance carriers on the life, annuity, and disability side, where we're transforming claims and customer service all the way from intake and to completion of that request. And I'm an unofficial advocate and evangelist of Ziguro.
Thank you very much, Bobbie. Really appreciate the introductions here. So let's kick this panel off with some basic security questions. It's National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. What are some of the ways SMBs can keep security top of mind for employees? Let's start with Theresa.
Well, I think it starts with the top down. I think it's really important. You can have a company apply all types of strategies to protect, their company from cyber attacks. But what is really important and what is really key is that the employees are informed. I find that a lot of employees are ill-informed, especially when it comes to maybe perhaps, clicking on a certain email that's a phishing email. I can't tell you how many times I received phishing emails, and they're getting more clever and clever, as time passes. So I think what is really, dire and what is really important is that employees need to be educated. They need to take the initiative upon themselves to not only protect their personal data, but take that initiative to protect the company's data. And so it has to be a collaboration between the employee and management as well.
So Akshay?
Yeah, so one of the things that I recommend a lot of SMBs to do, especially given this National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, is to take an opportunity to try and introduce a new security control in their environment. So one of the things that we've seen from my experience is that having multiple layers of security, having defense in depth is the best approach to combating threats. So one of the things you should look at if you're a small, medium business is if you have endpoint protection, to protect yourself and your computers from cyber attacks, can you extend that with another control like password management or two-factor authentication or cybersecurity training? So hope everyone finds a new control to add this month.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And Bobbie, what are your thoughts?
I think it starts with having an understanding, which is where learning education comes in for our employees. We also like to echo what Theresa is saying. We've taken security at a top-down layer from our management, and we trickle it down. And it's about having a security mindset. And what I mean about that is, how do you embody portions of security? How do you introduce certain concepts throughout our startup journey? So we are an early stage, we're a scale-up organization. We can't do security overnight. So it starts off with like little bits and pieces. So first it's about learning what are some of these concepts, and allowing our employees to have that training available and ready in their fingertips, making it easier. Second is about tools. What are some tools that are easy to use, easy to implement that we can put in our organization? And third is, like Akshay says, start introducing security controls. We did a few controls last year. We expanded that. We have a monthly connect with our teams where we're discussing security related items. And we have a security backlog that allows us to focus on incorporating bits and pieces of security along our way with our application.
Oh, very nice. Security first. And Noam.
Thank you. So when it comes to keeping security top of mind, my team has found nothing is more effective than regular ongoing phishing simulations against your team. It really gets people's attention. And I have some charts. If I'm able to share my screen, I am. I could show you right here. This is a sample of the failure rates for phishing simulations that we sent to a handful of our customers. This is the failure rate for the very first simulation that we sent to each customer's team. You can see it goes as high as a failure rate of almost 50%, and the average is about 1/4 of the team fails a phishing simulation. But if you do it on a regular cadence, this is the trend that we see. This is an example from one particular customer. The blue line, you can see their headcount was growing quarter over quarter. We were doing one phishing simulation per quarter. They were a Series B startup, so growing very quickly. So headcount was growing, but the yellow line, which is the percentage of their team that failed the phishing simulation, trended down all the way to 0 within how many is this? We have 2 years of phishing simulations here, so eight quarters. So we see this effectiveness across the board. It really gets employees' attention. We really recommend that you do it.
Oh, that's good. Numbers don't lie, right?
That's right.
Very good. Okay. If there are any questions, I'm hoping that you guys are actually, we're going to have the Q&A at the end. Please don't be afraid to actually mark down your questions in the chat box. I think that covered everyone. So let's go into the next question. It's like, and now let's talk about the basics. What are the top 3 security tools and solutions that every SMB should have? Noam, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you. Top 3. So I'm going to say the first one is, so 2 of these are strategic, 1 is tactical. The first one is your C-suite, your executive team must buy into cybersecurity. If they don't, it's not going anywhere. So you have to get your C-suite to say, yes, this is worth investing in. The second thing I would recommend is choose a framework. Cybersecurity is such a broad and a deep category that it's so helpful to have a guiding framework. If you have regulatory compliance needs, then you already have one pushed down on you by whatever that statute is, like SOC 2 or HIPAA or something like that. If you don't, I would say if you're an SMB, choose one that has some ability for you to get into it as an SMB without a huge budget. NIST has some frameworks for small businesses. CIS 20 is appropriate. PCI, maybe even HIPAA or CMMC as well. There are a number of them out there. It doesn't matter. Just choose one. Most of them just overlap. So choose one that's accessible and just knock off as much as you can. third thing I would say, mobile device management is like, if you're going to choose a tactical first step, mobile device management hits so many of the necessary controls for a good cybersecurity footing. I would start with that as a tactical solution.
Very good. And Theresa?
Okay, I want to say my focus today that I want to stress is encryption. Okay, because encryption is a preventative measure. And when I say encryption, I think SMBs should encrypt their network, all of their devices, including computers, your smart devices, your iPhones, or whatever type of phone that you have. If you encrypt your data with a reliable VPN, and I think that's worth due diligence to really find a viable VPN for your business, whether it's small, medium, or whatever, and encrypt all of your devices. So that's what I do. And so if, for example, if I have to do some type of transaction, financial transaction on my computer or either on my iPhone, I enable my VPN. Okay, so it hides my actual IP address and uses the virtual. And that way you protect yourself, you protect your data, you protect your actual IP address, and you prevent that exposure. So I think that is really critically important. In fact, I just made a post on LinkedIn about that and got a lot of reviews. I think a lot of people don't really understand what encryption really means. And so it's not something that is really accepted because I think people think that encryption is this big convoluted, algorithm that, okay, this is out of my space. I can't understand this. When it's really, really basic. If you just do your research and find a viable, virtual network provider and enable that into your network, that will give you that added protection. Okay. And so that's a preventative measure. And so encryption is just basically all about, scrambling your personal data, making it into an unreadable form, where somebody cannot steal at. And you can have a VPN where you can turn it on and off, because depending on the type of VPN that you use, it's always running in the background. So it's going to use, some of your computer space and so forth. But I think it's imperative that that everyone does that, not just the consumer, but the small businesses. I do it, and I just feel a lot safer. So, I just feel when I'm doing banking on my iPhone, I feel I enable my virtual private network, and I feel much safer that way. So I really, really wanted to stress that that protecting your data over the internet is vital. It's very key. And I think that will mitigate a lot of cyber attacks, and it'll, enable you to protect your identity, your information, and your IP address as well. So.
Very good. Okay. And Akshay.
Yeah, so first, I just want to say that I totally echo the suggestions so far. I'll offer a few more. And just in the spirit of things that I've seen help a lot of small, medium businesses. The first is investing in training and simulations. Definitely elevating the awareness and knowledge of the employees is definitely a great investment, and it has a very high ROI. The second thing that I've seen is, for a lot of companies, they, improving your authentication and adding two-factor authentication is a high, return on investment, and reduces your security risk dramatically. And then the third one that I'm seeing a lot of customers are, unfortunately, even with COVID, we're seeing a tremendous rise in ransomware and very targeted attacks. So having an endpoint, an advanced endpoint security solution that helps you to not only protect against ransomware, but in case you do get hit, also help you roll back from it, is increasingly important. So those would be the three things I would recommend.
Fantastic. And we will be talking about ransomware right after this one. So, and Bobbie, what are your 3 points?
So as a small business and a technology provider for in the insurance space, security is top of mind and having good tools is very important. So first is, as Akshay mentioned, invest in training with your employees. As a small business, I'm looking for tools that allow me to not only train my employees, but also a tool where I can host my policies, also place where I can buy my cyber insurance and allow me to scan my applications. So one tool that's how I got introduced to Zaguro is because I was looking at certain things and how do I make it easy for me and my team to manage security. So we use Zaguro for training, scans, hosting our policies, as well as doing as well as our insurance side. So that's one tool. Another tool that we've invested in is the phishing attacks and allowing for email encryption. So we've used Graphis. We're looking at Mail Assure right now. And the third piece is, as a small business, you have to make decisions in terms of how much, in terms of looking at your team and how much of your team is familiar with cloud security, or can you offload some of that to an MSP? So we actually have a strategy where our environments are secure, but just for that layer of extra protection, that advanced firewall, we use an MSP for that. So that's how we've invested in some of the tooling.
Oh, very good. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate that. So now we're going to move on and talk about ransomware. So ransomware attacks continue to rise and affect companies of all industries and sizes. Akshay, what trends do you see among your SMB customers?
Yeah, no, great question. I'm so glad we're talking about this, because one of the things that I have seen is, SMBs are most vulnerable to a ransomware attack taking them out of business. I mean, it's a really sad reality, but so many small companies that get hit with ransomware, it's, paying the ransom could be really expensive, or recovering from the attack can be very expensive. And there's more and more cases where companies go out of business after a ransomware attack. So unfortunately, with COVID, what's happened is it's become even easier for attackers to take advantage and deploy more ransomware, because employees are increasingly working, from home, maybe less secure environment, using default passwords, not having the most secure Wi-Fi, not using encryption or VPN like Theresa talked about. So 2 trends that I'm seeing. Number one, ransomware continues to be on the rise. And then the second thing that I want to highlight, based on what Bobbie talked about with MSPs, the second trend that I'm seeing is, a lot of MSPs rely on technologies like RDP to remotely manage their small businesses. And attackers are utilizing RDP, and I'm seeing a huge rise in RDP attacks also happening. So yeah, so 2 key trends that I'm seeing. There's many more, but those would be 2 that I think everyone should be mindful of if you're a small, medium business.
Very good. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So Bobbie, what are some of the strategies your company employs to protect against ransomware?
We saw similar trends that Akshay is bringing up. So the first thing we did this year is deployed a email security, which is a phishing tool using Graphis. And now we're looking at inbound, outbound email encryption, as well as that allows even more advanced phishing mechanisms through Mail Assure, which is a SolarWinds product. So that's how we saw some of the trends, and we're like, hey, we've got to get on top of that. The second piece that we're doing to protect ourselves is just we kicked another training module on HIPAA with our employees. Once again, it goes back to having that good base understanding with your employee pool. So we were able to deploy another module using Zaguro to do our HIPAA training. So our employees are even more aware of some of the concepts and what to look for, and how do we protect ourselves.
Fantastic. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Noam and Theresa, what do you recommend for your customers?
Encryption, VPN. That's it. Do your research and find a very solid, VPN, and get your network protected. Get all of your devices protected. I think that is one of the major things to protect your infrastructure, and also what Bobbie was saying about the email encryption. Having that email insecurity, and also, going back to employee development, employee training. And you can't stress that enough, how important that is, that employees have to have, a buy-in. They have to have their role. They have to be proactive, okay, because they're a part of that community. They are a part of that company. So, it can't be, okay, well, management, you tell me what to do. Okay. We need to be a part of the solution, not the problem. So we're all in this game together. Yeah, I just want to leave it. I think the two top things that the takeaways is, having that virtual private network, and also engaging the employees to take ownership, taking ownership of email management, learning how to identify what does a phishing email look like. Okay. I get so many phishing emails that I just know when to delete them, because you never ever want to click on anything. I get phishing emails from banks, okay, from people across the world, or they want to raise money for this or that, it's just some type of bogus claim. And you just know from experience. And so as a company, employee, you have to take that ownership, because you're a part of that community, you're a part of that company. And you have to, train yourself to, identify, okay, what does a phishing email look like? And when I do get that type of phishing email, know that you don't want to open that email. You don't want to click on any type of links, because that's when the virus will attack.
Exactly.
Okay?
Employee training is very important.
Yeah, and sometimes that virus goes dormant for months, it maybe a year, before it just implodes. So that's why I focus on, prevention, training, education, do all that up front, so you can mitigate, on the back end, any potential attacks.
Right. VPN and encryption. I like it. Okay. No.
So I like pictures. I'm going to show another visual. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is my company. This is my MSP's 8-point anti-phishing solution approach. It's a combination of 8 solutions, and I do want to echo a lot of the things that were said, especially turn off RDP. My team never uses RDP for anything, and we encourage all of our clients to turn it off. It's a very insecure protocol, but this is for phishing. But the reason I'm showing you a phishing visual is because phishing is email is the primary vector of attack for ransomware attacks. So this is a great way to stop ransomware in its tracks before it gets deployed to your organization. And a lot of the particular solutions we have listed here will also protect specifically against ransomware. So for example, AI-based anti-malware packages, there are a number of them on the market. We kind of call them next gen or generation 2 anti-malware. They're really good at stopping ransomware. My team's favorite is SentinelOne, but there's a number on the market. Really recommend making sure your antivirus has a proven track record against ransomware. There's another one, DNS filtering as well. This monitors all of your team's web traffic, and it prevents them from going to potentially malicious websites, and it also prevents ransomware from connecting to a command and control server to actually start the encryption process. These are the 2 things that are effective against both phishing and ransomware attacks. And of course, the third one I would mention specifically for ransomware is phishing simulations again. Train your employees to spot these things and to raise their awareness about security. A lot of the other things on here have already been mentioned. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, and they really don't have to break the bank.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And visuals actually are always good. So let's talk about remote work. So many organizations are working remotely still due to the pandemic, or are implementing more permanent remote work policies. Bobbie, Noam, Theresa, have you seen a shift in how your team thinks about cybersecurity while working from home?
Well, I don't have a large team. Okay, so and the people that I work with, they're pretty savvy when it comes to encryption and knowing what strategies to implement to to keep themselves safe. So I don't have a large organization that I deal with that I have to engage on that level yet. But I go back to what I keep saying, is being proactive and taking those preventative measures, and like Noam was saying, and protecting yourself from ransomware. you know um, my question is, how do we get that word out to people? How do we convince people? Because I in my business, what I still feel a lot of resistance. I get the sense that people feel like, well, this won't happen to me, and then when it does, you're crying over spilt milk. So I see a lot of that type of attitude still today, and unfortunately, sometimes it takes a black swan event to happen before people take cybersecurity seriously.
Exactly.
And so because I can tell you, you can preach and preach, to your, you can't do it anymore. People have to take ownership. They have to listen. They have to recognize what is going on in the world today, especially with COVID.
Right.
So with COVID, yeah, cybersecurity, ransomware is definitely on the rise, because we are definitely vulnerable. Especially small businesses are vulnerable. Large businesses, they have the resources, to protect themselves, especially the banks.
Right. Exactly.
But we don't. So we have to take it upon ourselves to do what we can do with the resources that we have to do the best that we can.
Exactly. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Bobbie?
So we've always been a remote company. I mean, we do have offices, but it's, our teams are fairly remote. I will share a practice that we've started recently, I would say about a year ago, is anytime we have a new hire, and during their onboarding, we're making sure that they have access to all of our security policies and procedure, especially mobile devices. We have a policy on that they have to review, they have to sign. And for our vendors, anytime we're doing a new vendor, we have a supplier policy that we give to them. And we do that on a quarterly basis. That means every quarter, our employees are getting a policy, a review of the policy, we're reviewing that and making sure that they understand. The second piece that we're doing is with remote work, we're just starting to deploy, as instead of folks using their personal devices, they can still use their personal device, but in order to access our environment, we're enabling a Amazon workstation. So we're using a workstation where we know that we're putting the right security in place, so that that's how they can get access to their dev environments or their QA environments.
Thank you for that. And Noam?
Yeah, so the work from home environment has been a learning experience for a lot of my MSP's customers. When it comes to cybersecurity, if I were to choose one thing that has been the biggest challenge, it is making sure that those devices that are now distributed to everybody's houses are secure and are compliant with the security policies. The single best way to do that is using device management, just to make sure that all your computers, all of your mobile devices have got the same or the correct security configurations installed across the board, and you can monitor them and manage them to make sure they're still enabled. Another really fantastic side benefit of device management is that if it's set up correctly, it really streamlines the onboarding process, especially in a remote work environment. You can drop ship a computer from Dell or HP or Apple or from wherever to your employees right to their houses. They take it out of the box, they turn it on, it connects to the internet. It basically configures itself, and the device management software ensures that all of the correct security policies and configurations are installed. And it can also install its own applications too. So it's a great both security and efficiency solution. So I really recommend anybody who's not doing any kind of device management look into that real soon.
Fantastic. I like that. It's good advice. Akshay, how has Malwarebytes thought about remote work security? Do you think these strategies can be effectively applied to SMBs?
Yeah, no. So one thing is Malwarebytes as a company, even before pre-COVID, we were a very highly distributed team. And we also create technologies to protect people both in the office and while they're remote. So in some sense, we had a head start but there were many things that we did differently as shelter in place took effect. So one of the biggest things we did is, of course, we deploy our own technology, our own endpoint detection response to protect against ransomware. The other thing that we saw we wanted to make sure we do is also protect our employees' personal devices. And so one of our products we released in last year is around privacy VPN. So you've heard Theresa talk a lot about privacy VPN. So we made sure that all our employees use a VPN at home as well. So that was another transition, is protecting, not just thinking about the work devices, but also the personal devices. And then the last two things I would say is going into shelter in place, and especially accelerating this month, we've really ramped up our training because we are a company that's also fast growing. We've added over 200 new employees, during the pandemic. So a lot of training, a lot of focus on phishing simulation and a series of modules around security awareness and training.
Thank you for that. All right, now let's talk about cyber insurance. The cyber insurance industry is rapidly growing, and more businesses are seeing the value in having comprehensive coverages. Bobbie, how does cyber insurance factor into Benekiva's cybersecurity program?
It's the reason we probably got started with it. I mean, being very honest, our customers won't do business with us if we don't have cyber insurance. So that's a pretty simple answer. We are required to have it, and we abide by the limits that they share with us. Because I mean, from a claims perspective, we're transacting. If you think about it from an insurance carrier, we've got a pretty core operation that we're optimizing and automating, which is claims and customer servicing. So cyber insurance is a big part of when they onboard us as a vendor, as well as before, we have to show proof that we have cyber insurance.
Yeah, cyber insurance is the new sexy insurance. Noam and Theresa, have your customers been asking about cyber insurance? If so, what's driving it? Should we start with Noam?
I'd like to see more of my MSP's customers ask about cyber insurance. I think it's a critical part of what we in the industry call a defense in depth strategy, which basically means that there's no one specific solution that's going to protect you from cyber attacks. You need to apply multiple solutions at multiple points in what might be an attack chain. And cyber insurance is sort of like at the end of that chain. You've already been breached, right? So now you need to do the cleanup and the incident response. Cyber insurance is a critical part of that. A lot of companies are focusing on earlier in the attack chain, for actually defending against attacks or trying to mitigate them when they're in place. We need to look at the end as well, and that's where cyber insurance comes in handy. I'd love to see more of our customers invest in that.
Very good. Theresa?
I don't have too many customers that are interested in cyber insurance at this point. So that's not something that I really talk a lot about in my work. So I can't really comment on that.
Okay, very good. Not a problem. All right, Akshay, do you foresee security companies like Malwarebytes ever getting into the cyber insurance space?
I think one of the things that I can tell you is that, we have over 20,000 small companies that are customers. And one of the topics that is increasingly coming up is cyber insurance. And so we do see the demand starting to come up. I think just a year or two ago, it was a very rare conversation. Now I'm seeing the rate of that conversation increase. So I think there's definitely more interest. Now, a lot of companies, especially smaller companies, they have a vendor and they're looking to get their full security stack from that vendor. It makes it a lot easier for them. So one of the things that we are thinking about, like companies like Malwarebytes and others, are looking at ways to provide cyber insurance. Now, as many of some of my panelists know, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of expertise in building a compelling cyber insurance offering. So a company like Malwarebytes, for us personally, that's something we're looking to partner and make sure that we can provide accessible solutions to our customers, but not one that we're trying to build ourselves, but make sure that we can get the access to our customers and get them a great cyber insurance offering.
Very good, thank you. So now we're going to go into Q&A. Now, Michelle, I think your question got answered, correct? I think so. It looks like Bobbie answered that. So one of the questions is, I don't have a large budget for cybersecurity. What should I prioritize? Bobbie, what would you say to that?
I mean, it really depends. Like if you, for us, the way insurance was number one, and then I would say any low-hanging fruit, like that's why I always introduce myself as I'm an unofficial evangelist of Seguro. It's because as a small business, I don't need to go to 5 solutions to help me with my training, help me with this. I need one tool, one price. There, make it easy for me. So that I found my low-hanging fruit with using Seguro, because now with some of the features and functionality, I've even invited my auditor, because I'm going through a SOC 2, into Seguro so they can see all my policies in one place without me having to like email them or upload them into their secure cloud. That's, I would say, try to find these low-hanging fruits. For me, I found Seguro to be that, which has helped us leap into our security program. If you saw my my year security plan, you'll see how everything is kind of compartmentalized, and each section has like, this is a Seguro section, this is my security policy that I need to do, but it helped me leap into that framework.
Very good. Noam, can you add any color to this?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. The best things in life are free, okay? As I said before, get your executive team on board that they need to invest in cybersecurity. Choose a framework that's going to guide you. That's going to be your roadmap. And then if you want to spend some money, really, we've seen no single solution that hits more of the most common, most foundational cybersecurity controls than mobile device management. And when I take out the mobile device management, because it includes computers, it includes phones, anything. If you are correctly managing all your devices, you're going to go so far from zero to immense ROI. So that would be the first thing I'd suggest.
Oh, fantastic. Another question that we have is, before working with a MSSP, what are some questions I should ask? No?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Ask about response times. It's amazing to me how commonly I hear MSPs say that they will respond within 24 hours or more. To me, that is crazy. I mean, my team, if you call us, we pick up the phone. If you email us, we respond within an average of 30 minutes. I mean, like, this is like basic, service, right? So really ask about their response times. Do ask about their experience with cybersecurity. A lot of MSPs kind of don't have a focus on cybersecurity and are reluctant to get a focus on cybersecurity because it's different than what the MSP market traditionally used to serve, just in terms of technical domains. So do ask a lot about how long have they been providing security services, what kind of security services they provide, and how they do that. Ask about their contract flexibility, because a lot of MSPs have very firm, like my way or the highway kinds of engagement structures, and are not necessarily flexible for what your budget or your particular technical needs are. And do ask for references. Yeah, that makes a difference.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah, that was very good. No.
Thanks. Hey, it's my business.
Yeah, very good.
Bobbie, if I may, like what
Absolutely.
Noam just said is exactly some of the questions that we asked. What we learned is when we ask those tough questions around, tell me, like, if we were to get a data breach, what kind of resources do you have to prevent that? Oftentimes, like when we were like going through our interview process, they would like offload it, or they didn't have expertise in their scope, right, within their own team. So it's so important to ask those questions, because you will quickly understand, are they, how much skill set does that MSP have, or how much skill set are they offloading or contracting to other MSPs?
Wow, very cool. Great answers. And someone else asked, it's like, for those of you who are relatively new to cybersecurity, how do you initially educate yourself on what you need to do? Who wants to take that one? Akshay?
Yeah, sure. I can offer one perspective. One of the things that I found a lot of customers who don't have a lot of experience in cybersecurity, they really rely on some basic 101 training. And that's a really good place to start. Just understanding some of the basic frameworks, security controls, what is defense in depth. So one of the things that we have seen a rapid increase is, customers that buy our products, we have something that we call Malwarebytes Academy, which is free for all of our customers. So they can use it to do basic security 101 training, both for the admins as well as for their users. So I think, and same like Noam and others talked about, also relying on the training that you get from your partner, whether that's an MSP, your cybersecurity technology provider. Those are great places, great launching pads to get the basic trainings.
Oh, very good. And staying with that topic, okay. Does every company need an MSP along with having cyber insurance? What do you think? No.
I'm biased. I mean, every company needs a reliable, trustworthy partner in IT, whether that's in-house or outsourced. And if it's outsourced, it should be an MSP, or it could be a trusted independent consultant who's not necessarily an MSP, but then you want to make sure that they have the right skill set and the right availability. So you need an IT resource. Most companies in the SMB space are too small to have an in-house IT resource, which is why the MSP market tends to focus mostly on the SMB market for the customer space. But you definitely need an IT resource one way or another.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Akshay, did you want to add some color to that?
No, I was going to say I wholeheartedly agree. I think that, especially for small companies, it's often overwhelming and it's not their area of expertise. So having a partner who can help you is, and MSPs are doing this for a living and they're excelling at what they do, and I think that the good news is what I'm seeing down market, especially companies less than 1,000 employees are increasingly realizing that. And we do see a lot of the business moving to MSPs. So I think that's good for the overall security posture of all those companies. So yeah, I would highly encourage it.
Very good. Thank you. We did get a question here. It's like, what are some great options for cyber insurance? Again, me being in the cyber insurance, or actually in the insurance industry for over 30 years, I believe there are shop your insurance. It's like, what at Zaguro, we actually, we try to tailor make every Zaguro policy for what every client needs. So we don't sell you what you don't need, but we try to grow with you. But seriously, talk about insurance, get to know who the carriers are, who they're backed by, et cetera. Insurances, you know what, I call it sleep insurance. So when, God forbid, touch wood, something should happen, you want to actually hand this off to your insurance agent and make sure that everything is going well. And again, Bobbie, I think you've reiterated this over and over and over again. So, okay. Okay, with 2020 coming to a close soon, what are some of the top cybersecurity lessons we've learned this year, and what are some of your plans for next year? Bobbie.
I think I already have a list of things that I want to do for next year. One of them, which is I'm investing in manual penetration testing. So we've got some really good automation penetration testing that's coming from Ziguro, but someone that could just break it, right? So we can find those vulnerabilities and have a plan to rectify them. That's a big one on my list.
Very good. Theresa, can you add something to that, or?
I would just say I would stress education and prevention, and which has been my song and dance from the very beginning. So that's what my focus is, and that's what I will continue to do, is educate, my customers, my prospects, the importance and the value of cybersecurity, because there's a great, amount of people that don't really take it seriously yet. So, and it's incumbent upon us, the ones who do value and see the value in cybersecurity, having that awareness and educating. We just have to keep educating, keep reinforcing, keep relearning, until it becomes second nature. So that's my focus.
Very good. No, Akshay, you want to?
Yeah, two things I'm looking at. Number one, I would say, is that continuing to evolve endpoint security is such an important point. Whether we call it device or we call it endpoints, I think that's a really important area. It's one of the highly attacked vectors. So protecting the endpoint is definitely one thing we continue to look at, being at the cutting edge, and investing in an advanced endpoint security solution is something I recommend to all of our customers. The other thing that I'm seeing is more of an emerging trend. So it's not one that I say everyone jump up and down like immediately until you've done some of the basics. But with COVID, with the shelter in place, we've seen the rise in cloud to increase, quite significantly. And the way that you need to protect cloud, whether it's software as a service, whether it's containers, we're seeing more attacks there. And I think that that's an emerging frontier of where I'm seeing more threats move to. So that's another area that I'm personally really passionate about.
Very good. No?
Thank you. So here's a trend that we've noticed clearly. Very few companies invest in cybersecurity because it's the right thing to do. Nobody does it because they're like, where can I spend my dollars this year? Oh, I know, we need to shore up our... Nobody does it that way, like very few. Here, there are two reasons that companies put dollars into cybersecurity. Number one is they have an external catalyst. It's usually a regulatory regime they need to comply with, like HIPAA, SOC 2, PCI, something like that. Or it's a corporate contract, like they're landing a new contract with a big customer, and that customer is forcing them to put some cybersecurity controls into place. So that's the one thing. It's just an external catalyst that makes them put the dollars into it, or they've been breached. And now they're going to put the dollars into it. So try not to do it when you're at number two. Think about it at number one. I think more and more industries are going to have compliance regimes forced upon them, either through regulatory measures or through contracts. My team is putting together what we call compliance as a service packages, where we'll come into an organization that has a need to comply with some kind of a framework, PCI, NIST, HIPAA, whatever it is. And we'll say, okay, here's our HIPAA solutions framework. Can we plug and play this for you, please? So that you're gonna be 80% towards passing your audit already. just by putting a framework in place. So that's what we're working on, trying to mature our approach with our customers' cybersecurity.
Very good. One last question. This was for Bobbie. It's someone just asked, can an SMB be too small for cyber insurance?
No. I mean, we have no choice, right? So we are servicing the insurance carrier. You have to get insurance. So I'm going to be very biased because I have to have insurance. So I don't have another option.
Very good. I think everyone needs insurance. So, you know, if you have a shingle, you actually need insurance. So that's kind of like all the time we have today. So I'm going to go through the panelists for their last final words. So we'll start off with Theresa.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so glad I was invited to this panel and meeting each and every one of you. I think everyone on the panel brought some excellent ideas and insights in how we can, you know, move forward in 2021. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Noam?
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to say to any small businesses listening, you know, start somewhere. If you're starting at ground zero, then your ROI is going to be massive no matter what step you take, and it doesn't have to break the bank. Choose one thing and just do it.
Good advice. Akshay?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, very similar, great feedback and great panel. Hopefully everyone got something that can take away. I think a few things. One is you're not in this alone. I know if you're a small business, it can be daunting. Like, I mean, you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to make it profitable. The last thing you want to worry about is, you know, cyber threats. The reality is you have to think about cyber threats, but you have partners who can help and you can offload that thinking too. If you don't think about it, there's plenty of companies that go out of business because they overlook managing the risk along with trying to grow the business. So my biggest advice to you know, small businesses is use a partner, use a friend to help you think about that. Focus on what you got to do best, but don't overlook the significant risk that can exist if you don't focus on cyber threats. So use an MSP, use a technology provider, and get started.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And Bobbie?
I think I echo everybody, what everybody shared, and thank you so much for inviting me to provide a small business point of view in terms of cybersecurity. I would just add, look at tools, but be very strategic about tools. Just don't get a tool to get a tool. I was there was a tool that I was thinking will solve my needs. It was pretty hefty price. But I don't need all of it. I needed like certain sections of it. And then once again, look at tools in a strategic way. Try to see if you can get most of those pieces in one tool so that you're not having to log into multiple places to manage your security.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Listen, this has been so informative. I've actually really enjoyed today. I want to say thank you to my fantastic, wonderful, brilliant panels. Speakers. So you guys have been great. And I actually want to say thank you also to all the participants that we have. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of us at Abby at Zaguro, ABBEY at Zaguro.com. And if you have any further questions for our panelists, please by all means, let me know and I'll get in touch with them so they can respond back to you. Thanks again to everyone. Have a fantastic day. Be safe and we'll talk soon.